Hello, everyone. Welcome to our weekly discussion series that's hosted by the Chaldean Cultural Center in collaboration with U of M Detroit Center, Unique Voices in Films, and CMN Today. I'm your host. I'm Nemo. I'm sorry, CMN TV. I'm thinking about today. So today I have Julie Meram with me. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
So Julie is a singer, writer, actress from San Diego who has performed her one-woman show, Mary Magdalene Saint of Sinners, across the country. Having performed with various theater companies, she has also worked in films and commercials in LA and San Diego. She is currently in production for the docudrama Why the Nativity. When not performing, she enjoys writing music and screenplays as well as teaching piano and voice. So, what a creative person you are.
I try to be. I always joke. I'm like the jock of all trades, master of none.
Oh, you know what? That's isn't that a Chaldean trait? Kind of.
I think so.
We're really good at doing that, though. We're very good at it.
Doing a lot of different things all at once.
Yeah, well, and it's because we're known as builders just historically, and so even historically they were able to create so much out of nothing, and it just seems like a pattern that continues, which is a good thing. Were you born in San Diego or?
No, I was actually born in Michigan, but I moved to San Diego when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And then I've just lived here pretty much ever since. I did live in Branson, Missouri for a year, though. I was in a play out there, which was really awesome.
So I know there's a large population of Chaldeans in San Diego. It's not as large as in Michigan, but there still is a large population. Did you grow up amongst the community?
Yeah, the church is like 5 minutes from me. And I actually used to sing in the choir. I sang in two choirs, actually. I sang in St. Peter's choir when I was a kid. And then when we opened St. John, I sang in that choir for a little bit also. So I've definitely always been in the Chaldean community.
Okay, so when did you realize you wanted to be an actress, and how did that feel given that you did were growing up in the Chaldean community? It's not something as popular as other careers.
It's definitely not as popular, which is okay. I have always loved performing. It's something that I don't really have like a moment that I can remember where I'm like, I want to do this, because I just have so many memories of, coming up with ideas for skits. And I started playing piano when I was 6 years old, and I've always loved singing. So I think it was very fluid for me, and that's why I've also felt like that it's been such like a God-given thing, that I've always had this burning desire to be a performer, which makes me feel like that's just where my vocation is, where I'm supposed to be.
So was one of the reasons too, maybe your parents, were they welcoming of that? Because it seems if you did have such a just natural way to just enter into that, were your parents fairly supportive of your decision?
Yeah, my parents came to like every single show that I have been in. My
Mhm.
parents are the ones, I always say my parents are the ones who put me in piano lessons. And when I wanted to quit piano, they were the ones who said I had to keep going. And so they always loved that I, would do my shows. When I did my Mary Magdalene show, it was my dad's idea to actually perform it first with the Chaldean community in front of the bishop and all the seminarians and priests and monks here in California. So my first premiere for Mary Magdalene was actually in front of them first, and it was my dad's idea to do that. And my mom and dad have come to all of my Mary Magdalene shows, even though they've seen it hundreds of times. I think sometimes for Chaldeans, it's just a very interesting path to take. So, but my parents have known me my whole life, obviously, and they just have always known it's a part of me, and their support means a lot to me.
So I'm interested, your on your dad's decision to have you do that, because there was a lot of wisdom in that. Did he ever express to you why he had you do that, or was it just something?
My parents are very big on blessings. That is one thing that is very important to them, as well as me. But my dad said, if you want to do something that is something that you wrote and, it's in line with our faith, with being Catholic, he's like, I also want you to receive the blessing from the bishop. He said, that's very important because you want to make sure, he's like, I know that your show is in line with our faith, but you want that blessing, that support from our community first before you branch out into other churches and stuff. So it definitely was something that he wanted to showcase. And I think he was just being a proud dad. At the end of the day, I think he was like, look what my daughter did. Isn't this so great?
Well,
Um,
that's what, yeah, for me, I also saw that that must have been a lot of built a lot of confidence in you, that you didn't have those feelings that, oh, like, well, this is not going to be accepted. Should I do this? Should I do that? So the fact that he had you do it that way publicly within the community gave that confidence. I often talk about the first time I ever shared a story is when we came to the United States. The English teacher, she asked us to write a story about a friend or a memory or something. So I wrote about my friends in Iraq, and she asked me to read it at a conference. I was only like 10 years old, and I had never done anything like that. But I realized when I got older, the fact that I stood up in front of everybody and read that story, as an adult, I realized what she was doing. That, and that became part of just a natural part of me, that it's not that there wasn't a fear, but it builds a kind of confidence. They're just putting you out there. And that's why I was feeling like there was so much wisdom, aside from, yes, the blessing is a wonderful thing as well, but there's also that confidence that it built in you. And so, but even with the community support and your family support, what struggles did you find in your career, and how did you maneuver through that?
I think there are definitely people who will not understand. That's not even saying like Chaldeans in general. I remember when I was in high school, um, I'll never forget. I was talking to my counselor about um, what I should do for college, and my grades for next, or not my grades, but my classes for the following year, for my senior year. And I just told them, I'm planning on pursuing the arts. And the school counselor was adamant that it was not a great idea to do that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget that. I was like, this is what I want to do. It doesn't matter what my school counselor is going to tell me, or, especially when you're in high school or college and you're pursuing that when you're younger. I think a lot of people think that you're chasing, some fame or fortune and not chasing the art. I think now that I'm older and a little bit more wise, I think that people kind of see, if I'm my age now, I'm not really chasing some sort of fantasy. I'm just enjoying being artistic and doing that. So a lot of my challenges were young, when people thought I was just silly and just had these dreams and didn't really know what I was doing. But also the industry is really hard, and you get burnt out, and have to grow a lot of calluses and thick skin. And I've been told a lot of not so great things from casting directors. People have said, change your hair, or get a nose job, or lose weight. And, you're not going to make it in this industry if you're a size 6, which is ridiculous. So there's just a lot of things that have come at you. But what I've focused on the most is, I know that my job, my vocation in this life, is to bring happiness to people, and to just produce art, and to be an artist and bring people close to God through what I'm doing. And at the same time, to just focus on what makes me happy, and try not to listen to all of the outer things that come my way.
So how did you insulate yourself from that type of negativity? If you were, say, you're speaking to somebody young and giving them an advice, what would you say about that?
I think there's a lot of growing pains in it, because although I can say it's easy now, I've shed a lot of tears. I'll never forget, I was at an audition and I didn't get a call back, and I literally went into my car and started bawling my eyes out, thinking like, I'm never going to do anything. I think one of the biggest things that you hear a lot in the industry right now is to create your own work. And I think that's incredibly it's so important. When I was in college, I actually wrote my own musical. It's the first musical that I've ever written, and I performed it as my senior showcase. I starred in it, and I think that gave me such a confidence to think like for younger people, you have to just create your own stuff and love what you are creating and focus on the art and not always focus on the industry. And my faith has changed a lot growing up, and being able to do Christian based things is not something that I actually saw my career going, which I'm totally okay with now. But surrounding yourself with people who are supportive of you and who see you through your darkest times is so important, because this industry can be so lonely, and you need to just have somebody to vent to and to just say, wow, that audition was horrible, and let's go get some ice cream and talk about things outside of acting and just be normal people again. So that's my advice. Surround yourself with people who are supportive.
Yeah, and I like that I what you're saying too is to focus on the art of it, because that's how writers, get over all these rejections, is because they continue to do the work, and it's really, there's no other way to do it. But when did you get your first breakthrough in your career where you felt that, um, I guess, what it confirmed that you're doing something right?
Yeah. So I have two kind of moments. My first professional gig was actually at a theme park. So I've done a lot of theme park stuff where like I'm the singer, I'm the actor on the stage at theme parks, and I love that kind of stuff. I think it's super fun, family friendly. That's family friendly stuff is always important to me, just because I want to always do things that are in line with my faith. But a few years ago, I was 19 when I first started working professionally as an actor and singer. But in 2019, I had this amazing opportunity to perform in Branson, Missouri, with this theater company called Sight and Sound Theaters. And Sight and Sound Theaters are these mega, mega theaters. There's two in the country. The theater holds 2,000 people, and we would do two shows a day, Tuesday through Saturday. It's a Christian company, and our show was Noah. And I moved for a year. It happened to be the year of 2020 when the contract actually was, which was interesting because we didn't get to do our whole run. But I ended up doing the show June of 2020 all the way to December of 2020, even though we were supposed to do it March to December. That was the coolest thing, because I like moved away for a year to do this production. But getting on a stage every day with 2,000 people in the audience, going to work, my work was going to this theater, sitting down at my dressing room, talking to my girls in my dressing room, putting on my makeup. That was the most incredible experience. And on top of that, it was a Christian theater company. So we would pray before everybody, was a Christian. I learned so much about my faith. My family drove to see me. They drove from California to Missouri to come see me perform. I got to fly in the show. I understudied a lot of roles. So that was probably like my biggest breakthrough. And it was a godsend, because back in California, things were pretty much shut down, and I was working for that whole year.
Wow, it's not, sorry, I had it muted. That's interesting, because we were talking before I started interviewing you, and I was telling you how COVID kind of worked out when we were trying to cast actors, because then
Mm.
we were able to do it via Zoom. We were actually able to get quite a bit of work done because of that. We could go around people's schedule, and they could be anywhere in
Yeah.
the United States that we could do that. So, you know, when you were telling me about the Mary Magdalene and your father having you do it in front of the church first, but was that, for some reason, I thought that was something that you did earlier, but it was something that you continued to do for a while. Can you tell us a little bit about that show, and how long did it continue?
So Mary Magdalene Saint of Sinners, I'm still performing it. I actually have some bookings for next year. So I wrote the show. I got the idea for the show about 5 years ago, It's a one-woman show. It's about 45 minutes long, and it goes through the story of Mary Magdalene from her life in Magdala to when she meets Jesus to the crucifixion and the eventual resurrection. So it's something that I always kind of wanted to do, but never really had time to write. During COVID, I found myself with a lot more time on my hands. So although I had started the play, I finished it in like 2020, 2021. And then I started reaching out to different churches and communities, hoping that other people would be interested in seeing the show. So that's when I was able to perform it for the Chaldean community and the bishop. And then after that, I started performing it in churches here in San Diego. I've performed it in Arizona. I also was able to just perform it last week at I think it's called the Immaculate Heart, Sisters of the Immaculate Heart, and Monroe in Michigan. I have a cousin who is a nun, and so I performed it for her convent, which was really cool. I was performing it for a bunch of retired sisters, which was such a blessing. So it's something that I'm still performing, and I keep reaching out to churches, just saying, "Hey, I have this 45-minute show." It's a very simple piece, but it's, in my opinion, very poetic, and hopefully people, when they see the show, they can grow closer to Jesus. That's definitely the goal, to just see that we all are sinners and we all have pasts, but through God's forgiveness, we can do anything.
So, Julie, you're gonna have to one day do it in Michigan.
I did. I was at the convent. I just did it for the sisters. It's in Monroe in Michigan.
Oh, that was okay. Oh my goodness. Well, I have to be notified now.
I'll
I
do
mean,
it
well, it was
again.
for the sisters, but you're gonna have to do it for the rest of us too. Okay?
Definitely, yes.
Because
I would love to. I
yeah,
would love.
because we have we have the largest population of Chaldeans are in Michigan, and I think it's something that you should even do like more often. We have a large community, and a lot of people, what they don't realize, we have this east-west thing where sometimes, even though we're like a 45-minute drive, but people don't end up, it's a big population, and people sometimes don't make the effort to
Yeah.
see something. So you're going to have to do a little tour in Michigan, okay?
I would love that. Yes, I'm working on a lot of ways to get involved out there as well. So even though we're a little time zone different, and it's definitely a goal of mine for as many people and as many churches to see this show, because I'm very proud of it and I want to share it with
It
as many.
sounds like it. That's why I'm saying, when you're sharing this, and so, well, congratulations on that. I mean, I haven't seen it, but obviously it's been a hit in the community because you continue to get viewers for it, and that's really wonderful. And so now tell us about, your current project, Why the Nativity?
Yeah, so Why the Nativity is a really fun film that I'm also working on. It's with Turning Point Ministry. David Jeremiah is a Christian preacher out here in San Diego, but he's very global. He has a lot of stuff online that people can view. And it's a docudrama. So it's basically going over the Nativity and why it's important that Jesus came to, save all of humanity. I play the daughter of the Persian king that came. So we know that there were the three magi. The really, really cool thing about this is that they have the three kings be from three different places in the world. So they have the Persian king, they have the African king, and they have the Asian king. And the director was telling me that one thing that was very important to him was diversity and family. So instead of just the kings coming to see baby Jesus, they bring their entire entourage, their entire family, because it's a family moment. So I play the daughter of the Persian king, and I have amazing costumes. Let me tell you, I love that I have a little crown. I've got these flowing robes. We have camels, and we're actually shooting it in San Diego. They built an entire Jerusalem. It is impeccable. I mean, I've never been on a set with so much detail. And I almost started crying when I first got onto set, because you really feel like you're there, that you are where, this is like where Jesus was born. And it just feels like they just did an amazing job. So it'll be coming out in November, December for Christmas. I don't know what where they're going to be distributing it, but I know it'll probably be on their website on Turning Point. So just stay tuned for that.
So I like that modern angle to it about the diversity, and just from the essence of what you're describing, there's also like a lot of spirituality in your work. And to me, myself, I feel like there's a lot of spirituality in Christianity, in Catholicism. So it makes sense. But sometimes, people can sometimes get too technical over things, and then it separates it. How do you solidify that, and personally for yourself, and especially with your art?
What do you mean by like how?
Well, I think sometimes what happens is there's a sense that um, we how do I say, people sometimes, especially when it comes to being artistic, I feel like we transcend nationality, religion, we transcend a lot of things and bring forward our highest selves, which for me, that's part of what our faith is about.
Mhm.
But sometimes I think that artistically there's a cap that's placed on that, because seems like there's so many rules or things that can or cannot be done, and that's where I feel like spirituality gets limited a little bit. But in seeing you express yourself, and I can see that you bring out your artistry forward in a strong way, with the core being your faith. And so to me, I almost sense that they're one and the same. But again, I come from a region where we couldn't be artistic, we couldn't
Yeah.
be creative. That was really, it was, there was a cap that was placed on it. But here, um, Christians have that opportunity. But then sometimes when I say about technical things, like, okay, or maybe that shouldn't be shown, that should be cut off, so it seems it might like limit creativity.
Mm.
How do you come to terms with that? Or maybe that doesn't even appear in your experience.
Yeah, I think I have two thoughts. One, I understand when you say like, there weren't always support for people growing up because like as I mentioned before, everybody faces their own challenges. And I think for the longest time, I secretly felt guilty or ashamed. I think ashamed is a better word. Ashamed of wanting to be an artist, ashamed of wanting to be a performer, even though I had the love and support of my parents, and they put me through college and, allowed me to choose performing. Um, there was this shame that kind of went with it because it wasn't what other people were doing. And only up until a few years ago did I realize that what I loved the most, I kept kind of diminishing it. And I needed to understand that this is what God wants for me. And if there's ever a day that God doesn't want that, I hope and pray that He will make that very clear. But if my heart keeps saying that this is something that I want, then, somebody once said, like, our most inner desires are what God's plans for us are. And that has kind of helped me so much in this industry. And then on top of that, it is an industry and it is a career. And whenever it comes to taking things that are maybe a little bit less artistic, like you said, like, I need to, especially when it comes to writing. And I know you're a writer as well. So when you're writing, I need to edit this, I need to edit this, I need to edit this. What I've learned is to ask the Holy Spirit for guidance in what to do in these moments because I look at like a builder, for example. Jesus was a carpenter with Joseph. I'm sure that there were things that Joseph had to fix when it comes to building things. But I've learned that, especially in just writing, asking for the Holy Spirit to sit, to help me describe the words that I need, or to omit this, or to add this. I think inviting God into everything that we do allows us to be more creative than we ever could have been. So I think, yes, there has to be technical things, but I think allowing God into those
You
technical
know,
things.
yeah, that was so beautiful, Julie. That was exactly what I was kind of trying to say. But that word, as soon as when you said that shame that comes, that's it's a cultural thing.
Yes.
And especially for women. And that's what puts that cap on the being creative. I mean, over there, everything feels like it's banned. Even until today, these things are happening. It's not like from the past, and even
Oh yeah.
it leaks into the West. Unfortunately, oftentimes they're okay. Well, you can't say this, you can't do that. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's your connection, it's your inner connection with your higher being, with your God, and then seeing like, is this the path for me? Because that's really who we get approval at the end of the day, that communication with our higher self. And that was said very, very beautifully, that and it was exactly that, what I was trying to say is that how do you get past that? But it's because our relationship with ourselves, with our higher being, is between us and God.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that's what makes that final decision.
Definitely.
And any last words that you want to share with our audience before we leave? Any last? I mean, you've also. I just love the. I think especially for young people, hearing what you have to say and understanding. When we are, it's like what seeds are we planting into this universe? How are we when we're gone? Have we planted good seeds or harmful seeds for our next generation? Have we put something? I've read art of writers who simply say that, especially children's writers, all they wanted to do was add beautiful things into the world to make it a happier place, and that was their vision and that their mission in life. So it could be just, did you plant a seed that would bring beauty, that would bring happiness, that would bring knowledge, educate, and so I feel, even though you're still a very young person,
Yes,
but you have, yes, but you have given already a lot of wisdom, because obviously you started in this path early on, and you also kept, you were connected to your faith early on, and that gave you so much direction. So with that, what last words would you give somebody who is, trying to find themselves, trying to pursue things that are in the arts, which are a little bit complicated because there's more inner, I think there is a little bit more inner struggle that is involved with them.
yeah. This might not be what you want to hear, but I also think in life you do have to compromise a little bit. And so, as much as I am a performer and an actress, and I love all this, I think there is also an important thing that you do need to be realistic with life as well. And one thing that I always tell people is that you should have something that is not artistic, because being an artistic person can be so incredibly draining. And sometimes, so I'm actually a real estate agent when I'm not performing. And I have found that having a balance in your life is so incredibly important. And having something outside of being an artist can ground you in different ways and allow you to be a better artist. And so I think that, especially for people who want to be creators in the Chaldean community, finding some sort of compromise that maybe their parents can say, okay, you do this, but you also love to be a comedian, or you do this and you also can do this. I think that sometimes we live in this, it has to be either or. And I think we can always kind of live in between, because humans are such faceted creatures. We have so many different things to us. And so I think finding ways that you can make your artistic abilities into a business, or finding ways to kind of marry the worlds together, so you're never maybe worried about money, because we all know that, being artists doesn't always pay anything. So that's my biggest
Or
thing.
not, or it doesn't pay consistently. So even if it does pay, because I got to tell you something. So before, because that is a very good advice. Because one time I was in a Zoom meeting with Sofia Coppola,
Uh-huh.
the director, and everybody, like, we were asking questions and talking and stuff like that, and somebody asked her that about an advice, and she said, always have a job. And I said, what? With
Right?
her having the greatest, a director as a father, and given the work that she's done, she said, always have a job. It's very important, because I think that it gives you that stability with money. But you're right. I think even on an emotional level, even on a physical level, it probably gives you a certain type of a routine that as
Yes.
an artist you might not find. So it's interesting that you said that, because but a very famous director also said that, And I think it's very wise words to live by. Thank you so much, Julie. We look forward to your future work, especially here in Michigan. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a wonderful day.
You.